Come on, Mr. X. You don't need another half scale and you don't need another Joker. These are great. Don't do it. You can't do it. Don't do it. Shit. I did it. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Alright guys, so today we are going to dive into the Prime 1 Studios half-scale Heath Ledger Joker from The Dark Knight. Now I'll talk more about that before we get into the in-depth review, but first we're going to talk about the coldest water bottle. If you've watched some of my videos recently, you know that this guy right here keeps stuff cold for 2 to 3 days. Comes in all different shapes and sizes, and I sound like an infomercial because that's what I am, baby. But if you want to win one of these, there's a free link in the description. Make sure to check it out. These are fantastic. And even if they didn't pay me to say that, I still would. I probably wouldn't say as much as I do. So if you caught my video a few days ago, Extreme Acquisitions, I talked about how I got an excellent deal on this guy, and I've always wondered what the hype was. Now recently, I got the Prime 1 Studios half-scale black-suited Henry Cavill Superman, or Cavill Superman, right here. You can check out the review. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I actually like this a ton more. A little bit of a spoiler, even though it's an older piece. I am really impressed with this, and I'm really glad I got him, despite the fact we talked about in the intro that I have a number of Heath Ledger Joker statues. Because to me, Heath Ledger's portrayal of what's arguably one of the greatest comic book villains of all time was fantastic. He took it to a level that nobody even knew existed. And obviously with him not being with us anymore, what a great way to immortalize him in his iconic role. So I didn't even have this on an eBay alert. I had something else on an eBay alert, but as you guys know, sometimes you get weird recommendations based off of that. So I got a recommendation for him, and I saw that he was going for an excellent price. I shot a new offer to the buyer. He instantly accepted. I paid. Actually, no, wait, he's the seller. I shot an offer to the seller. Anyway, he shipped it, came in fantastic form, and here he is on the table, so we're going to do an in-depth review. If you haven't seen this piece before, it's made by Prime 1 Studios. It's half scale, meaning a real-life version of him would be twice as big. And I'm going to put him upstairs. Mrs. X doesn't know it yet, but she's going to find out in about 20 minutes when I move it up there. If you want to see what that looks like, go ahead and check out the Extreme Channel Instagram, Facebook page, and TikTok. I post exclusive stuff on there. But again, this is Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, the second Christian Bale Batman movie, what many people argue to be the best Batman movie of all time. In my opinion, it does fall into that camp, and it's not just because of Heath Ledger and his portrayal, even though that's a big part of it, but just every aspect of it. Now, Heath Ledger played a maniacal Joker, a Joker who really knew what right from wrong was, but he didn't care. Where if you compare him to some other Jokers, like his predecessor, Jack didn't know right from wrong. He was that insane. But in my opinion, what he did in the role is he scared you. A Joker that was actually legitimately scary, homicidal, maniacal, and he really, to quote Alfred, just wanted to see the world burn. So even in a simple museum pose like this, he still portrays that. So let's kick off the review talking about that, and we'll kick it off talking about the concept of this piece. As I said, it's a museum pose, kind of boring. But it starts with this museum-style base, which they're doing on all their half-scale pieces, because this is something that could be in a museum or an awesome movie theater or something of that nature. As you can see, has the nameplate on the front of it. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. It has 4 spotlights on the outside that actually the seller included batteries on it, so that was fantastic. You have a concrete floor. To me, this is symbolizing that scene where he told Batman to come and hit him on the Batbike. He is there, fully dressed out in his garb. He has a ton of different switch-out options we're going to talk about, but he is just standing there, waiting for the Bat to try and get him, because like I said, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care if he lives or dies. He's in his awesome Joker attire, and we're going to talk a lot more about that when we get to the paint and sculpt. So this is what we call mixed media or fabric on a statue, which I am not a fan of, but wow, it looks great on here. Then you get to the top, and with concept, we want to talk about likeness a little bit. I think they nailed it on this statue. Not only did they nail the likeness, but I love the expression. He looks bored and scary at the same time, and I think that's a great expression from the movies. He doesn't care if he lives or dies. He doesn't care about anyone else. He doesn't even care about himself. So I think they captured that well. So for a giant museum piece, I like the concept. It's nothing amazing by any means, but they still capture the character, And I question whether they captured the character because they did such a great job or because Heath Ledger did such a great job and it's easy to capture the character. Nonetheless, we're going to give it a 4 out of 5 on the concept of this piece. Design, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not good at dressing up dolls anymore. Sorry, at all. I mean, never was. Beer, cold beer. But let's first look at the unboxing and assembly of this piece. And the assembly was a pain in the ass. 2 giant boxes, as you'd expect for a half scale. Standard white foam. Now on the back of it was actually a small section that kept the clothes. You can see them right here. Seller did an awesome job packing. So here's the first layer. It was a mix of all the different switch outs. Here is the fancy paper removed. Now the second layer, I actually forgot to take a picture once I removed the cloth. So you'll have to wait and imagine what that was. But the other box was the base. So actually, if you didn't notice, I actually cut out a bunch of pieces because I got Mrs. X to help me with the buttons. They were just too small.
Hey, that's what she said.
Now, while I'm not a fan of how I disassemble it, in the end, everything does work, so I really can't complain about that. Now, let's measure this piece first. The base, the widest point is about 18.5 inches. The deepest point is about 14. Then you have this little display that comes out about 2 more inches, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But he is damn near between 39 and 40 inches. So extremely tall, as you would expect for a half-scale figure. Now before we look at the switch out or display options, I want to talk about this front plate. So technically it is optional because you can remove it like this. However, it leaves behind the battery compartment, which to me is so freaking stupid. Because I'm not a fan of these display plates, so I would not display them. However, you kind of have to, otherwise you see that. Why couldn't they have put the battery compartment and the button in the back? So now let's talk about the switch out options, and most of them are back in the box. That's where I left them, but I took pictures for you guys. Now, the left hand, he can be holding his iconic blade that you saw throughout the movie, or that same hand can be holding nothing, but that looks kind of weird. You can have a hand that's kind of just floating to the side. This is also available on the right hand, just like the fist, available on both the left and right hands. But the right hand, you can have one where he's holding his Joker cards between his fingers, and you can put the Joker cards anywhere, in his pocket, on the ground. Or you can have this big Tommy gun, or a pistol. I like both the guns, those will definitely be my choices. So really with design, other than the pain in the ass of dressing him, I can't really find too many flaws. But then again, it's not overly complicated, so once again, I give it a 4 out of 5 on the design for this piece. But now let's dive into the paint and sculpt, even though technically most of it is covered up with the mixed media or the fabric. So we'll talk about that and let's dive in. All right, so let's check this guy out. And as I said, really impressed on what a figure that is mostly covered in clothes, like how impressive it can actually be. We'll start at the base. If you saw my Superman review, it's very similar to that, but keep in mind this was a predecessor to that. So this was actually out before that, to my knowledge, at least the black suited Superman. So you have this shiny museum style base, couple layers and indentations on it. Really gives it that museum style vibe. And then the nameplate we talked about that I don't like, but you kind of have to cover it up. Looks fine. The Batarang from that movie. Down here, the cement looks fantastic. I like the sculpt of it, the design. They have some blue in there, almost like some aquamarine with some green shades along with the normal concrete covers and the cracks. Again, reminiscent of the scene when he said, "Come on and hit me." There's the cards. But even looking at his shoes, so his shoes fully sculpted, these look fantastic. And like I said, I do know they're movie accurate. Everything from the stitching to the laces. The laces look a little flat. I think they could have done a little bit better job, but look at the shading on the paint. Really impressed. Now the clothing is equally as impressive too. Not just like kind of the wear that they've built into it. You really see it around the edges here, but the material, very high quality feeling. And then just the layer of the clothing and the detail they go into it, from, you know, his jacket here and his vest, and then his shirt beneath it and the tie. Really, really impressive. I like the suede material here. It's a suede-like material, I guess. The buttons in the back. Just extremely impressive on this. It's nicer than the clothes that I wear, which, if you watch the channel, that's pretty evident. Inside orange material here. It just really adds to it, every little detail in the clothes. Pockets. Let's look at his gloves here, which are fully sculpted. Again, fabulous detail. Again, more stitching, some buckles right there. The knife looks okay. It does look a little toyish, so I think there could be some improvement there, but I like the wear on it. You can tell it's his knife of choice. The gun, some similar comments about both guns. They don't look bad, but they don't look as good as some other ones I've seen. Which brings us to the portrait. Now, it does look like it's a translucent skin that they used underneath it. And interestingly enough, when I assembled it, this is a different shade his neck is than the rest of the body. And I like how the makeup is caked on. I think his expression, as we talked about, is great. His eyes, I think, a little weak. They look almost like decals. I like the concept of his eyes, but I think that if you look at the paint on them, and as we talked about, the likeness is spot on. They did a really nice job with the likeness on him. Hair, I would prefer, you know, not sculpted, but the nice thing about it being sculpted is it's already styled for you. Kind of looks like a bag of worms, but that's what his hair did. I think the color's spot on. They did a nice job with that. I think they could have done a little bit better job. His makeup wasn't this clean in the movie. It's kind of caked in on the sides. And then his scars aren't as scarry or bloody, I want to say, as you would think. But even look at the detail here on the sculpt and the paint right there. Really, really nice job. So as I said, extremely impressive overall, especially when you step back like this. It's just kind of a wow factor. All right, so Sculpt. You know, not a lot of places to see, but I'm going to include the fabric in that. I think it's a 5 out of 5. I am extremely impressed. I really can't think of anything I could improve. I just love the portrait. I love how sad he looks, and I think it really ties into that character. Paint. Again, not a lot of areas you can see, so we'll include the mixed media as well. I have to give the paint, it's not perfect, but I still give it a 5 out of 5. I'm really impressed by it. I can see why everyone loves this piece despite how old it is. Now diving into value, we're not going to actually rank the value because it's an older piece. Retail was $19.99. It was $2,000 for this guy. Plus, of course, she had to add shipping on top of that. I paid $2,100 shipped, so I thought that was an excellent deal. You typically see him go more than retail because they only made 1,000 of these. So keep that in mind, only 1,000. But then again, people who buy this are a little bit limited. $2,000 years ago used to be a lot for a statue. It doesn't seem like it is anymore. However, this does take up a ton of room. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to buy any more half scales, but I didn't think I would buy him. But does he have the X factor? Is he wow? Is he 5 out of 5? You know, I don't think he is. I think he's amazing. Paint and sculpt are great. But to me, a museum pose is really boring, and his size alone doesn't get him to that level of 5. He's close, though. He's very close, coming in at a 4 out of 5 on this piece. So let me know what you guys think. Did I get a good deal at $2,100? That comment that you put below may enter you into the contest. Well, it will enter you, and you may win off of it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like stuff like this. You can just punch that picture of me. Drop me a like on your way out. I'll talk to you very soon.